Well, the next story we want to cover is all the censorship that's going on. You might have noticed a thing or two on your news feed lately. It seems one-sided, doesn't it? Like if you're tuning into Facebook, you're tuning into Twitter, you're on your search engine of choice. It seems like it's leaning one way, and you'd be right about that. In fact, new information this morning about Facebook and Instagram, but also DuckDuckGo. Reuters reporting exclusive Facebook and Instagram to temporarily allow for calls for violence against Russians.
So it's not just what you can't say, it's what you can say, right? So Facebook is saying these are forms of political expression that would normally violate our rules. That is calling for assassination of political leaders. But we're going to allow it. We're going to let it slide.
Let it go.
Right now.
Yeah, it's fine now.
And now Russia is saying to the United States, you need to reel in Meta. You cannot have a social network or a company out there that is calling for assassination of global leaders. But it seems like that's okay. Meanwhile, DuckDuckGo, the search engine that is beloved by those who oppose Google's ranked search, now says that it will rank down pro-Russian information. So you see here two perfect examples of what you can say and what you can't.
So here's Gabriel Weinberg, the CEO, founder of DuckDuckGo, right? Here's what he has to say. Here's his little avatar. He says, like so many others, he tweeted, I am sickened by Russia's invasion of Ukraine. I think we all agree with that. And the gigantic humanitarian crisis it continues to create. We all agree with that. Hashtag stand with Ukraine. At DuckDuckGo, we've been rolling out search engine updates that downrank sites associated with Russian disinformation. And he goes on to say, in addition to downranking sites associated with disinformation, we also often place news modules and information boxes at the top of DuckDuckGo's search results, where they are seen and clicked the most, by the way, to highlight quality information for rapidly unfolding topics.
All right, we got to let David take this one because we got all kinds of caps lock and emoji texts from David over this last night. He was like, what?
Yeah, because that's the reason I installed that was because they were supposed to be different. And I even not retweeted, but asked that person on that tweet, who is deciding what is disinformation? When you do this, who is making that decision?
Who are your fact
It's not like DuckDuckGo has all this knowledge to be like, oh, this is the right one. So who are they going to promote? Most likely CNN, Fox, MSNBC, who we have proven over and over again continually spread propaganda and show misinformation or disinformation. And so you're never going to get that right.
No, and that's the thing. It's like we've reported here just this week on these biolabs, right? When USA Today ran their fact check story. And in their fact check story, they literally have a Ukrainian unnamed source, a Ukrainian government official, and a State Department official saying this information, even though it's on the State Department's own websites, right? So this has been totally discredited. So when you have your fact checkers or Facebook, we know that there's members of the military, former members of the CIA who've been Facebook fact checkers. That's who you're getting your fact checking from. These people who lie for a living, by the way. As Mike Pompeo said, these are people who lie for a living. The CIA that's their whole purpose.
They are allowed to.
Is to spread disinformation.
It's like an important part of their job to be allowed to.
Right.
Right. Clayton and I were talking about this morning because media theorists, right? So I have a sociology degree with an emphasis in mass media. So this is something that I've studied and I've thought a lot about. I have a master's degree in this field. And I have read John Milton, right? And the idea, this is hundreds of years old, that in a free marketplace of ideas, truth will prevail. But John Milton had no idea that there would be such a thing as algorithms, right? And so it matters. Even the way you type something into search is what results you're going to get, right? There is no such thing anymore as a free marketplace of ideas. And it becomes worse based on this algorithm, right? So I was just trying to think, does the algorithm do this because it thinks that we as a populace are too stupid to understand what truth is, so it needs to give it to us? Or is it as simple as the narrative that they want us to latch onto is the narrative that they profit from. And I think the reality is a combination of all. No, I don't want to say that. I don't think that we are too stupid at all. I don't think we are given a chance.
Right.
And so that's what really has me dark about this morning is because we've basically, we talked about in the first segment that we've perverted all market forces, right? When it comes to money and economy and finance. But we are perverting market forces when it comes to information as well. And that's what's turning my stomach and making me so mad.
It's information is one thing, right? But then we also look at sort of like we could extrapolate to say, think about things like redlining, right? When governments decide winners and losers, right? And when big tech decides winners and losers, we had the story in the newsletter this week about redlining and how it's led to, in these areas of these poor neighborhoods, a huge increase in pollution and toxic chemicals and other things because they're sat basically next to industrial pollution centers and so forth. So it's the government in many ways deciding who gets to live where and who doesn't. And it's the same way with big tech. They're saying, we get to decide what you hear. We don't really care if you're smart enough to handle it, but we're going to funnel a certain narrative your way because we profit from this. Think about CNN profits from this. MSNBC profits
but
from
also
war.
the idea that I don't want to hear, something that's so out there extreme, 5G is in my toothbrush kind of stuff that I think, but I should be exposed to it. No, it should not be. And so Facebook has decided that if I see things that do not jive with my conviction bias, I'm more likely to close Facebook, right? And so Facebook's saying, let's not give her that stuff. Let's only give her stuff. Because when you are fed your own conviction biases, it increases your pleasure hormones. Like you literally have a physiological response to things that you like.
And this is in Facebook's data. This is in Facebook's own data.
The search engines are here telling you, we're going to keep you around by continuing to give you things that you like, because if you see things you don't like, you're going to leave us, right? So there's not only perversion, there's profit in it, right? And so I should, as a person who's interested in a free market society of information, want to see the crazy stuff and decide for myself. And you should too, even if you're the kind of person that hates Donald Trump's Twitter, you should fight for your right to see it.
Right.
And remember when the pandemic first got started, it was like a narrative that, okay, all these businesses had to close, but at the beginning they were just fining businesses who wanted to stay open, like $1,000 a day or whatever. So these big corporations could afford it, and the government knew full well that small businesses would have to close and lessen the competition. I don't know if everybody remembers that. So it's like there always seems, if you follow the trail, there always seems to be a financial motive for doing this stuff.
Here's Jason Hayward asks Gabriel Weinberg, the CEO of DuckDuckGo, the whole point of DuckDuckGo is for you to not do that.
Right?
Right? He says no, and he responds, no, the whole point of DuckDuckGo is privacy. The whole point of the search engine is to show more relevant content over less relevant content. Well, who are you to decide what's relevant for Jason? And that's what we continue to do. So you're going to downrank. Let's go back to his original statement. We're going to downrank information and what we've deemed, as Russian disinformation. We're going to downrank sites associated with who? By who? You're choosing this? And this is what you're going to do is to give him less relevant information? What if I want to be more informed? I want to know what the Russians are saying. What if I want to know? What if I want to make my own decisions about what's being presented to me? Here's another one. Andreas writes, so you are censoring your users. DuckDuckGo now decides what is or isn't misinformation. This decision should be left to the user. Search engines, by definition, try to put more relevant content higher and less relevant content lower. That's not censorship. It's search ranking relevancy.
Again, it's not, okay, fine, but it is not a free market information. And so we fool ourselves when we think that it is, right? And
being so free market, like it's their website, right? So here, maybe this is what this guy says. Gimli says, I get it. But I thought the point of DuckDuckGo was to present search results as is, not your role to play thought police. Well, and then Gabriel from DuckDuckGo says, well, what exactly is as is? Search results aren't a completely random list of websites. They are created based on a complex set of algorithms weighing hundreds of factors.
Right, but one of those factors is clicks, right? How many people are going there, and is it relevant to the search terms that you have just put in? So if you are searching what is the history of Ukraine government and why is it ranked as a corrupt nation, you should get real information. But now they're saying anything that is anti-Ukraine or pro-Russia, it will be ranked accordingly.
You'll get a little info box that'll pop up.
And that is a self-fulfilling prophecy, because if you want to read something like that that is antithetical, right, then it won't get clicks. Then it feeds into itself, right?
Right. So if I do a search for, like we showed you the video earlier of these women at the school, these Ukrainian women who are asking the Nazi Ukrainian soldiers, hey, we don't want you to we don't want you to put these missiles near our schools. Like, why are you doing this? Get these out of here. Take them over to a field. Like, if you do a search for that on DuckDuckGo, what will you find? Like, you'll get downranked information, stuff that's been blocked, obviously stuff that's already been blocked on Twitter. So, but if I want information about these women who run these schools in Ukraine and they're telling these other Ukrainian soldiers, don't put your anti-aircraft missiles here because this is a target for our schools, then move them away. You know what you're doing. I should be allowed to have access to this information, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Well, so I uninstalled it from all of my devices, and in my feedback, it said, for other, I said, you sold out, F you.
Okay.
But there's all sorts of threads right now that are people are like, here's how to uninstall DuckDuckGo. I mean, it was my search engine because I was like, I don't want Google tracking me. And DuckDuckGo, I believed in what they stood for. They just in one tweet.
Well, I'm going to start asking Jeeves again.
There you go.
Or what was it? Dog fetch dog? What was the?
All right, we're going to all be quiet now and listen to Philip. Everybody who's not Philip and is male, do this.
Well, now it better be profound. No, I always hate making the comparison to George Orwell in 1984. But then somebody in chat, where's that? There we go. Letta Westcott was like 1984 is alive and well and progressing nicely in 2022. So I think one of the things that like it's popular to think of that novel as, like the Big Brother is watching you, like the government is watching everything you do. But the real point of that novel is that they control the media and they control the narrative. And so what's interesting is when you have these companies like Twitter, like DuckDuckGo, who are doing that, what they called 1984 newspeak, but the companies are doing it. It's not the government forcing them to. It's like It's like these companies willingly going in and controlling the media narrative for what? It's like the
right.
I mean, it's got to be profit, right? I mean, it's always Occam's razor to me. It's follow the money, right? I mean, these members of Congress, White House, they make so much money from Facebook and Google, all the money that's donated to these campaigns. It's just like they are. Washington is run out of Silicon Valley. Make no mistake about it. Washington is run out of Silicon Valley. That's really the de facto Washington right now. And those are the power brokers. They get to decide elections. I mean, basically, they get to decide what information you see. They can ban President Trump, his own Twitter account, but they won't ban, I don't know, they didn't ban Vladimir Putin's Twitter account.
No.
But if he was so bad, right, why isn't the office of the presidency of Russia's Twitter account banned, but Donald Trump's is banned? Twitter gets to tell you what you get to see and read. So why can't they just pull down these terrorists?
No, it doesn't work like that. There is no threshold, right? There's no threshold of, I don't know. I mean, these sort of woke decisions are made based on outside pressures, either from shareholders, employees, or users, and it sort of erases their fiduciary from a publicly held company. It's really troubling when we don't have a standard anymore, and that it's these big tech companies that are deciding what we think, what we say, and what we're allowed to say, and who we're allowed to, and when we're allowed to say to kill somebody, right? Kill somebody. Like, no matter what you think of Vladimir Putin, right? Like, murder is now on the table, but saying that some parts of Ukraine are pro-Russia is not.
Right? You can't say that. You can't.
What world is this?
Yeah, you can't spread truth or history. And I love the sort of rewriting of history that happens now. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. We all know that Wikipedia is the worst and controlled by billionaires, and those billionaires get to control whatever is put out on Wikipedia. It's going to be interesting to watch how many times the Wikipedia page for this Ukrainian-Russian conflict is updated and scrubbed and everything over the next few weeks.
To make another Orwellian reference, it's like that we are at war with Eurasia and we have always been at war with Eurasia. That's one of the main lines where they're at war with. I can't remember who they were at war with in the beginning, and then halfway through it they update that, and that's kind of what happened. It's like we're at war with Afghanistan. They're like, no wait, scratch that. We're at war with Russia. And it just but the narrative stays exactly the same, and it amazes me that the government has to try so little for that propaganda now because people do it themselves. These companies are doing it. People going after each other and YouTube comments or Reddit or any of these social media platforms. People going after each other, pushing that propaganda. It makes it so easy for the government to do. They don't even have to really invest anything.
That's that Ukraine on Fire documentary by Oliver Stone. I mean, he talks about that stuff, and it's just amazing to see how propaganda can infiltrate people and just completely divide us.
If you like this content, be sure to subscribe to the channel. Also, we have a membership program. For the price of a cup of coffee once a month, you can support independent journalism just by going to morninginvest.com/join.
You get access to exclusive videos, plus the ability to join and chat with us live. We really appreciate your subscription, and you are supporting independent journalism.